In the vast expanse of space, humanity had always wondered if we were alone. That question was answered on a rainy Tuesday morning in 2157 when massive ships appeared in our skies. But they weren't here to invade. They were here to welcome us to the Galactic Council, a federation of over 300 intelligent species spanning our galaxy. The Council representatives, with their sleek crystalline bodies and flowing robes, looked down at us like parents watching their toddler take first steps. They praised our quaint achievements while listing out all the ways we needed to improve before becoming full members. Their patronizing smiles made my blood boil as I sat in that pristine white chamber, serving as Earth's junior diplomatic attaché. "Your species shows promise," the Grand Speaker had said, their translucent form shimmering under the chamber lights. "But you must understand, you're still quite primitive. We estimate at least 50 years of supervision before you can be trusted with full membership rights." That was 6 months ago. Now, as I stand before the same council chamber, things are very different. The Grand Speaker's smug expression has been replaced by something I never thought I'd see: fear. Behind me, holographic displays show the impossible. 3 Drachnid warships, the most advanced vessels in the Council fleet, floating dead in space, disabled by Earth's primitive defense systems. How did you do this?" The Grand Speaker's voice quavers. The other council members whisper among themselves, their crystalline forms catching the light in agitated patterns. They hadn't expected this from the primitive humans they'd been so eager to patronize. I straighten my diplomatic uniform and allow myself a small smile. "When you first arrived, you gave us access to your basic technological database as a gesture of goodwill. You thought we'd need decades to understand even the fundamental concepts. What you didn't account for was human determination, creativity, and most importantly, our ability to think outside your carefully constructed box." The council chambers fall silent as I continue. "While you were busy writing reports about our developmental progress, our scientists and engineers were working around the clock. We didn't just study your technology, we reimagined it. Those Drachnid ships weren't disabled by brute force. We simply showed them a new way of thinking about space warfare." "This is unprecedented." Another council member bursts out, their crystalline form flickering with distress. No species has ever questioned your authority." I interrupt, my voice echoing through the chamber. "No species has ever suggested that maybe, just maybe, being different doesn't mean being inferior." The tension in the room is thick enough to cut with a knife. The council members shift uncomfortably in their seats, probably realizing for the first time that their comfortable hierarchy of species might not be as stable as they thought. "We're not here to threaten or challenge the council's authority," I say, softening my tone. "Earth wants to be part of this galactic community, but as equals, not as children to be supervised. Those disabled ships, they're already being repaired by our engineers, with improvements that even their designers didn't think possible." I pause, letting my words sink in. The Grand Speaker leans forward, their crystalline form refracting light in complex patterns that I've learned to recognize as intense interest. Perhaps we need to reassess our initial evaluation of your species. And that's exactly what we've been waiting for. But as I prepare to present our terms for a new relationship with the Council, warning lights suddenly flash throughout the chamber. Something is wrong, very wrong. The holographic displays flicker to life, showing a new threat emerging from the darkness of space, something that neither humanity nor the Council has ever encountered before. The holographic displays show a massive object emerging from what appears to be a tier in space itself. It's unlike anything in the Council's extensive database, a structure that seems to constantly shift and change, like liquid metal flowing in zero gravity. The chamber erupts in chaos as Council members start shouting over each other, their crystalline forms blazing with patterns I've never seen before. "Order! We must maintain order!" The Grand Speaker's voice cuts through the pandemonium, but I can hear the tremor of uncertainty in their usually confident tone. All eyes turn to the main display as the object continues to materialize. It's easily twice the size of our largest space stations, with surfaces that seem to absorb light rather than reflect it. That's when I notice something that makes my heart skip a beat. There, barely visible on one of the shifting surfaces, is a symbol I recognize from Earth's ancient history, a pattern that archaeologists had discovered in underground chambers on every continent, dating back over 50,000 years, a pattern we dismissed as coincidence until this very moment. We need to contact Earth immediately. I say, my voice steadier than I feel. Our historians and archaeologists might have information about this, thing that even the Council doesn't possess. The irony of the situation isn't lost on me. Here we are, the primitive species, potentially holding crucial knowledge about something that has the advanced Council members trembling in their seats. The Grand Speaker turns to me, their crystalline form pulsing with what I've learned to recognize as intense concentration. Explain, they demand, all traces of their former condescension gone. The chamber falls silent as I pull up images from Earth's archaeological database on my personal device. These symbols have been found in ancient sites across Earth, always accompanied by warnings. I explain, projecting the images alongside the live feed of the mysterious object. Our ancestors left messages about those who dwell between spaces and the shifting ones who must not return. We thought they were myths, religious texts, or perhaps the ravings of primitive minds. But now, a low rumble reverberates through the chamber, making the very air feel thick and heavy. The mysterious object has stopped moving, hanging in space like a dark star. Then, without warning, it begins broadcasting on all frequencies, not in any language known to the Council or humanity, but in patterns. Patterns that match exactly with those found in Earth's ancient caves and temples. By the first light, whispers one of the Council members, their form dimming in what I assume is fear. Your species. You were warned. You were prepared. I look at the symbols again, remembering the countless hours researchers had spent trying to decipher them. Not prepared. I correct them. Protected. Something wanted us to know they would return. Something wanted us to be ready. The Grand Speaker rises, their crystalline form now pulsing with urgent patterns. Your species has demonstrated capabilities we never anticipated, abilities we perhaps foolishly dismissed. Now we face something unknown, something that your ancestors apparently encountered and survived. We request your help. But before I can respond, the mysterious object begins to change again. Its surface ripples like water, and sections of it start to unfold in impossible ways, revealing depths that shouldn't exist in our three-dimensional space. And from those depths, something begins to emerge, something that makes the ancient warnings suddenly, terrifyingly clear. The chamber's atmosphere grows heavy as we watch transparent, almost ghost-like figures emerge from the dimensional rifts. They flow like water but move with clear purpose, their forms occasionally solidifying enough to reveal features that seem to defy the laws of physics. The Council members back away instinctively, but I find myself stepping forward, drawn by a strange sense of familiarity. The ancient texts, I whisper, pulling up more archaeological data. They called them the Void Dancers, beings that exist between dimensions. Our ancestors didn't just leave warnings. They left instructions. I quickly scanned through the decoded hieroglyphs, my hands shaking with both excitement and fear. They taught us how to communicate with them, how to negotiate. The Grand Speaker stares at me in disbelief. Negotiate? These entities have already disabled our long-range communications and quantum defense networks, systems we thought impenetrable. What could your primitive ancestors possibly have known about dealing with such beings? A sound like distant thunder rolls through the chamber as the Void Dancers approach the station's outer barriers. The Council's advanced shields flicker and fail as if they were made of paper. But when the entities reach the station's hull, something unexpected happens. They stop, hovering just outside the reinforced windows. They're waiting, I realize, remembering more details from the ancient texts. In every historical account, they waited for humanity to make the first move. Not out of courtesy, but because they're studying our response. They want to see how we've evolved since their last visit. The Council chamber erupts in frantic discussion, but I'm already moving. Years of diplomatic training kick in as I approach the nearest viewing portal. The Void Dancers shift and swirl on the other side of the glass. their forms creating patterns that match perfectly with those in our ancient caves. "I know what we need to do," I announce, my voice cutting through the chaos. "But you're not going to like it, Grand Speaker. We need to shut down every piece of advanced technology in this station. All the fancy quantum computers, the AI systems, everything that wasn't built by human hands." That's madness. Several council members shout in unison. The station's life support. "We'll continue to work," I interrupt, pulling up more ancient diagrams. "These beings don't care about our basic technology. They're interested in something else entirely. Our consciousness, our way of thinking. Every historical encounter happened when humanity was on the verge of a major evolutionary or technological leap." The Grand Speaker's crystalline form pulses rapidly as they process this information. "And now we're about to join the Galactic Council," I say, understanding flowing through me like a river. "But maybe that's not the leap we're supposed to take. Maybe there's something bigger waiting for us, something our ancestors knew about but couldn't explain directly." As if responding to my words, the Void Dancers begin creating new patterns, complex, beautiful, and terrifying all at once. The station's remaining systems start to flicker and fail, but in their place, something else begins to emerge. The air itself seems to come alive with possibilities that no human or council member has ever dreamed of. And that's when I feel it, a presence in my mind, ancient and vast, reaching out not just to me but to every human on the station. In that moment, I understand why our ancestors left those warnings, why they prepared us for this exact moment. The real test isn't about technology or power or even survival. It's about something far more fundamental, something that will either elevate humanity beyond anything the Galactic Council ever imagined, or end us completely. The Void Dancers press closer, their patterns becoming more intense, more urgent. Time seems to slow down as I realize that the next few moments will determine not just humanity's fate, but perhaps the fate of all conscious beings in our galaxy. And the key to it all lies in those ancient cave paintings, and the wisdom our ancestors fought so hard to preserve. As the ancient presence fills my mind, I begin to understand why our ancestors were so careful with their warnings. The Void Dancers aren't just visitors or observers. They're guardians, placed here eons ago by a civilization so advanced that even the Galactic Council would seem primitive in comparison. But they're not here to test our technology or our strength. They're here to test our wisdom. Suddenly, a second tier in space appears, but this one is different. While the Void Dancers emerge from smooth, flowing rifts, this new portal crackles with harsh energy. Through it steps a humanoid figure, tall and imposing, wearing armor that seems to be made of pure light. I recognize it instantly from the deepest, most controversial parts of our ancient texts, a walker of the first path. We've been watching. The walker's voice resonates directly in our minds, waiting to see if humanity would choose wisdom over power. They gesture at the council members, who stand frozen in their crystalline forms. These beings chose technology over transcendence. They built their council on the foundations of control rather than understanding. The Void Dancers swirl more intensely, their patterns now telling a story I can somehow read. They show me visions of countless civilizations across the galaxy, each facing the same choice humanity faces now. Some chose to join the Council's hierarchy of controlled progression. Others, far fewer, chose a different path, one that our ancestors had glimpsed but couldn't fully comprehend. The Council's way isn't wrong, I find myself saying, understanding flowing through me like a river. They created stability, peace, progress. But it's not the only way, is it? There's something more, something our ancestors knew about but could only hint at in their warnings. The walker nods, and in that moment, I see what the Council couldn't. The true purpose of their primitive assessment of humanity. You were never here to evaluate us for Council membership, I say, turning to the Grand Speaker. You were part of the test. Our response to your condescension, our ability to advance without losing our fundamental humanity. That's what they were watching for. The chamber fills with a light that seems to come from everywhere and nowhere at once. The Void Dancers' patterns become more complex, more urgent. Through our shared consciousness, I feel every human on the station experiencing the same revelation, glimpses of what we could become, of what lies beyond the Council's carefully structured universe. But then the walker raises their hand, and the visions stop. There is a price, they say, their voice heavy with the weight of eons. To step onto this path is to accept responsibility not just for humanity's evolution, but for the awakening of all conscious beings in this galaxy, including them. They gesture at the Council members, who have begun to show signs of understanding, their crystalline forms resonating with new patterns. The Grand Speaker steps forward, their form pulsing with what I now recognize as awakening awareness. We never knew. All this time, we thought we were the guides, the teachers, but we were all part of a greater design. The chamber trembles as the two-dimensional tiers begin to interact, creating patterns of reality that human eyes were never meant to see. The void dancers move in increasingly complex formations, and I realize we're approaching the moment of choice, not just for humanity, but for every species in the galaxy. That's when I notice something in the patterns, a detail so significant that it makes my blood run cold. The walkers and the void dancers aren't just offering us transcendence. They're warning us about something else, something that threatens not just our reality, but all realities. And suddenly, the true purpose of our ancestors' warnings becomes terrifyingly clear. The patterns swirling around us reveal a truth more terrifying than anything we could have imagined. Our universe, along with countless others, is approaching a cosmic threshold, a point where the boundaries between dimensions begin to naturally break down. The void dancers and walkers aren't just testing us, they're preparing us for what's coming. Every 10 billion years, the walker explains, their voice echoing through our shared consciousness, reality itself must be renewed. The last guardians performed this task, just as those before them did. Now the cycle approaches again. The void dancers' patterns shift to show us the devastating consequences of failure, entire galaxies collapsing as the fabric of space-time unravels. The Grand Speaker's crystalline form pulses with newfound understanding. Our entire council, all our achievements, we were like children playing with toys, unaware of the true forces shaping our existence. They turn to address the other council members, their voice carrying a humility I never thought possible. We must adapt. We must evolve. That's when I notice something in the ancient patterns that nobody else has seen, a hidden message within a message. Wait, I call out, my voice steady despite the weight of the revelation. Our ancestors didn't just leave warnings about this moment. They left us a choice. I project the decoded symbols, showing how they align with the current position of the dimensional tiers. The walker inclines their head, a gesture of respect that sends ripples through reality itself. Your species understands what few have before. The renewal doesn't require guardians who have transcended their mortality. It requires those who remember what it means to be mortal. Suddenly, everything clicks into place. Why humanity's primitive nature was actually our greatest strength. We haven't lost touch with our base consciousness, our fundamental connection to the universe itself. The Council's perfectly ordered existence had distanced them from this essential truth. We accept, I declare, feeling the weight of history behind my words, but not as superior beings looking down from above. We accept as part of this galaxy, as brothers and sisters to every species represented here. I turn to the Council members, seeing them not as our former judges, but as fellow travelers on an unimaginable journey. Together, the void dancers surge forward, their patterns forming a bridge between dimensions that shouldn't be possible. The walker raises their hand, reality itself bending around us. Then let the transfer begin. The knowledge of 1 billion years, the responsibility of existence itself. It passes now to humanity and its allies. But as the transfer begins, as the cosmic knowledge flows into our consciousness, I realize our ancestors left us one final warning. The choice we've made isn't just about saving our universe. It's about changing the very nature of existence itself. Because this time, for the first time in the history of reality, the guardians won't be transcendent beings watching from above. They'll be mortals who remember what it means to feel, to fear, to love. The station fills with light as the transfer completes, and I feel the presence of every human consciousness connected in ways we never dreamed possible. The council members resonate in harmony with us, their crystalline forms pulsing with new purpose. We are no longer separate species, but part of something far greater. As the void dancers and the walker begin to fade, returning to the dimensions beyond our own, they leave us with one final message, a truth that will forever change how we view our place in the cosmos. In choosing to remain connected to our mortality while accepting this cosmic responsibility, we haven't just saved our universe. We've started something entirely new, something that has never been attempted in all the cycles of existence. And as I look out at the stars through the station's windows, I realize that our greatest challenge still lies ahead. Because sometimes the hardest part isn't saving the universe, it's deciding what kind of universe we want to save. In the months that followed, the Galactic Council underwent a transformation unlike anything in its history. The crystalline chambers that once housed bureaucratic debates now serve as nexus points for a new kind of governance, one built on understanding rather than authority. The knowledge transferred to us by the void dancers and walkers didn't just change our capabilities, it changed our perspective on what's possible. Earth, once dismissed as a primitive backwater, has become something entirely new, not a seat of power, but a symbol of balance. Our cities still buzz with technology, but now there's something more. In parks and public spaces, you can find meditation centers where people learn to touch the spaces between dimensions. Children play games that unconsciously prepare them for understanding quantum mechanics. We found a way to advance without losing our humanity. The council members, those crystalline beings who once looked down on us with condescension, have become our closest allies in this new age. Their natural ability to resonate with different frequencies of reality complements our intuitive understanding of consciousness itself. Together, we're learning to maintain the fabric of space-time not through cold calculation, but through a deep connection to existence itself. But perhaps the most profound change is in how we view our place in the cosmos. The ancient warnings in our caves no longer feel like relics of a primitive past. They're reminders of our eternal connection to the universe. Every time we need to make a crucial decision, we look to these messages not for direct answers, but for the wisdom to find our own path. The dimensional tiers have become permanent fixtures in strategic locations throughout the galaxy, carefully maintained by joint teams of humans and council members. They serve as both monitoring stations and training grounds, where we practice the delicate art of reality maintenance. It's not about wielding power. It's about understanding the responsibility that comes with it. Yesterday, I stood in what used to be the council's main chamber, now transformed into a universal teaching center. A young human child sat next to a crystalline council offspring, both of them learning to read the patterns of existence. Their laughter as they discovered new dimensional frequencies reminded me of something the walker said before departing. The universe doesn't need perfect guardians. It needs guardians who understand imperfection. We're not the transcendent beings our predecessors were, and that's exactly the point. Our connection to our mortality, our emotions, our very human nature, these aren't weaknesses to be overcome. They're tools for understanding the deepest truths of existence. Every time we reach out to stabilize a wavering dimension or guide a developing civilization, we do so not as gods, but as fellow travelers on an infinite journey. The stars look different now, knowing what we know. Each point of light represents not just a distant sun, but a thread in the grand tapestry we're charged with preserving. Our ancestors knew this day would come. They prepared us not by making us perfect, but by ensuring we would remember our humanity when the time came. As I finish recording this account for future generations, I can see the dimensional tiers shimmering on the horizon, their patterns a constant reminder of our new reality. We may not be the guardians the universe expected, but perhaps we're the guardians it needed, because in the end, the greatest wisdom isn't in knowing how to control reality, it's in knowing how to grow with it. And so, humanity steps forward into its new role, not as rulers or conquerors, but as caretakers of something far greater than ourselves. We carry with us the lessons of our past, the technology of our present, and the understanding that our greatest strength lies not in transcending our nature, but in embracing it. The universe, in all its infinite wisdom, chose us not despite our humanity, but because of it.